night. Thanks for tuning in for Thursday night. We do a Bible study here. We're going through the New Testament in chronological order. Live on Purpose is all about intentional, Christ-centered living. And if you aren't living on purpose, stick around here for a while. We'll walk you through the New Testament, the life of Jesus, and just see how he lived, as well as those who were hanging out with him. Tonight, we're talking about wine. So I hope that you'll join in with me. We're going to go through the first miracle that Jesus performed, and in so doing, I thought I would join in as well with a glass of wine. And if you'd like to run and get a glass of wine, you can do that too. Well, I just kind of give a little backstory on where we've been over the last few weeks. We have been in the New Testament in the book of John, chapter 2. The first 12 verses is what we've been focusing on for like 6 weeks now. Come on, really? You know, I hear about people who read the Bible in a year. God bless you. If we can read 12 chapters like in 12 verses in 6 weeks, oh my goodness. Yeah, get your hands in the soil. Dig up some nuggets, and that's what we're doing in these 12 verses. Good evening, Bill, and how you doing, David? Great to see you tonight. I have, and everybody else who's also joining in the background, so great to see you too. We are talking about the first miracle that Jesus performed, and I am going to help myself with a glass of wine as we do that. And like I said, if you'd like to grab a quick glass and join in, you can do that as well. I want to let you know that I believe with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength that living on purpose is centered around loving God, loving others as we love ourselves. And we do that by loving God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so it's important for us to take care of those core areas in the wholeness of our being, our heart, our emotional health, our soul, our spiritual health, our mind, our intellectual health, and also our physical health. And that when we are focused and taking care of ourselves in those areas, it's amazing when we show up and are aware about what's going on around us in the present moment, that God is really among us doing great things through us on purpose. And so you don't have to spend your whole life looking for your purpose. Just live it out on purpose, and you'll begin to see the unfolding as you walk out with the intentionality of loving God and loving others each and every moment of the day. Good evening, Woody. So I am taking you through, mostly in chronological order, the Gospels. The Gospels are the first 4 books of the New Testament. They start probably about 2/3 of the way through the Bible. And the first 4 books are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the New Testament. And so we have been, and if this is your first time joining, we've been spending the last several weeks focusing on the first 12 verses, and I'm hoping to finish that tonight, hey Hannah, on chapter 2. So let me go ahead and read where we've been so I can catch you up to speed for those who are just joining in. On the 3rd day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, don't you hate it when that happens? When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My hour is not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." And nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." And the servants did so. Hey Sherry, great to see you tonight. So, if you want any backstory or what we've studied on these verses, all you have to do is go up to the top of the Live on Purpose page, scroll through the videos, and pretty much the title of the video is what we're talking about. So, so you can, check that out if you want to look at any of these first 8 verses that we've gone over in the last 5 or 6 weeks. I want to point out, though, before we get into verse 9 through 12 that we're going to get through tonight, which will be the part where we talk about this miracle that Jesus turns water into wine. He was not the guest of honor at this wedding. He was invited with his disciples, so obviously they knew, him, and they said, hey, because we know you and because you have these, guys with you, invite them along too. But he's not like at the head table. He's hanging out with his disciples at this wedding festivities that have been going on for a few days. That's typically what wedding receptions, if you will, look like. And his mother is somehow related to one side of the wedding party or the other, thinking probably the groom's side, because he's the one hosting typically during this time in the culture in the Middle East. He's hosting this event. And so with that said, probably something happening here where he's the groom is inviting some of the extended family to come in and kind of help with things out. I'm guessing. Okay, there's no comment. This is the Patty Baker commentary on this, okay? And I'm giving you in some point the PBV, which is the Patty Baker version. But I'm thinking that this is probably what was going on during the time. Also, you would think, oh my gosh, this is Jesus. He wasn't the head, like grand poobah of the place. No, he wasn't. But he was probably somehow part of the extended family, and his disciples were invited too. Now, the servants knew where this water came from. And they knew because they went and got it from a nearby creek, river, well, somewhere. And they put the water in these stone jars, which if you were here last week or if you watched last week's video, this is like bathing water, okay? It was used for rituals and for cleansing, okay? So, I don't know, cleaning feet. I don't know what all they were doing with it. Nonetheless, okay? It's not drinking water. And neither are the stone jars that it's sitting in, okay? That's not what this was used for. So, Jesus tells them to go and put this, almost like put it in the tank of your, the tank on the back of your toilet, okay? And then draw some out and go give it to the master of the banquet. Right? You're just like, really? That's what the servants knew where the water came from. They knew what jars were being put in. They had drawn some out to give it to the master of the banquet. I don't know about you, but I would be like, I hope he doesn't cut our head off when we find out what's going on, right? Like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? The master of the banquet. We don't know who he is. Wedding coordinator of the day? I don't know. Was he like part of the chaplaincy? Was he the priest that married him? We have no idea. Was he like one of the groomsmen? Was he like the best man? We don't know who he was, but obviously he was the man who was overseeing what was going on. And for all we know, he said to the servants, hey, it's probably about time to get some more wine going on up in here. And the servants went back and they were like, we don't have any. And then Mary must have been hanging out, Jesus' mom, and said, come with me and let's go talk to my son. And so that's when he gets involved. So he's not at this head table. He doesn't know what's happening here, okay? But all of this to say, when the water is drawn by the servants and taken to the master of the banquet had no idea what's going on. He's the governor of the gala trying to make sure everything's looking great, okay? So let's read on John chapter 2, verses 9 through 12. And the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside. So the master of the banquet's like, hey, come here. And said to the bridegroom, everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you've saved the best until now. I mean, even back then, bring out the good stuff first, because that's when the palate's the freshest. They'll appreciate it more. But once they're drunk, they don't care anymore. It's liquor. Just bring out the cheap stuff. They won't even notice. And so that's what's happening here, right? So he said, but man, you saved the best until now. You ever heard that term? I know you have. To save the best for last, right? To save the best for last. The least shall become first. As we read on through the New Testament, we hear this. So the master of the banquet is like, wow, dude, you brought out the best last? Amazing, spectacular. I don't even think the bridegroom knew what was going on. He was just like, okay. He didn't know. He didn't know where this wine came from. Neither did the master of the banquet. And who is this master of the banquet? Like, is he some connoisseur of wine? Like, does he know the body structure? Does he know the structure of the wine? Does he know the body of it? Does he know, the alcohol content, the aroma, the length of it, or the finish of it? He doesn't talk about any of that. He just is like, this stuff's good. This is like, man, you saved the best for last. Oh, this is awesome. It's amazing how God does the heavy lifting in our lives, and then it just seems so effortless, Like that all that was put into what was drawn and what was put in the glass in that moment. And the master of the banquet acknowledges that it's something pretty great. And even tells the bridegroom, man, you saved the best for last. And yet, at the end of the day, the master of the banquet didn't know where it came from. He just knew it was good. And I think sometimes we can taste and see that something's good, but not realize that the Lord is behind it. Taste and see that the Lord is good. And I think sometimes we do experience things in our lives where we're like, man, this is awesome. Check out the sunset. Oh, have you ever seen the sky painted? Like, this is great. What all that went into that for that moment. And really, we're in days into a wedding festivities, and Jesus is concerned about this crew running out of wine. Obviously, they've been drinking for a while, because the master of the banquets even brought it to the attention. Hey, usually you bring out this stuff after, you never bring out the good stuff, like after everybody's lit. So it's been going on for a few days, right? And yet he saves the best for last. Or so the banquet master thinks of the bridegroom. But God's done all the heavy lifting. And we get the fruit, the full body, the great flavor, the wonderful aroma as it swirls in the glass life. And yet, do we really know where it's come from? Or the work of the Lord that's been behind it to make it in that moment? As you go throughout the next couple of days, be aware of the full body of flavor in your life, in the littlest of things that just pop up in the moment. And you see a daffodil and you go, wow, that's beautiful. Or the tulips that are out and you go, man, that's gorgeous. And all of the work of the Lord that went into creation to have that available to us in the moment. I think we miss it because we're not living on purpose, fully connected with the wholeness of our being, heart, soul, mind, and strength. Take time to smell the roses, right? And I think about the fact that here's the master of the banquet acknowledging to the bridegroom that, hey, I want to let you know that I know, because I'm kind of a with it dude, and I know that we don't usually put, like, nobody puts out the good stuff last. I just want to let you know, I noticed that you did. Right on. Right on, brother. And, because this is good stuff, right? And not even the bridegroom was aware of the miracle. The master of the banquet wasn't aware of the miracle. And all the people who are now going to get, you know, we talked about this last week, anywhere between an extra 120 and 180 gallons of wine, whoever's going to be drinking that has no idea the miracle behind this water turning into this exquisite tasting beverage. Nobody. So why, in the moment, like, if you're going to do a miracle, Jesus, why not let as many people see it as you can? Why just a few? The servants knew. Because they were a part of making that happen. And you can hear more about that in last week's video. I'll read on, and it says, this starts out in verse 11. What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory. There were a lot of miracles surrounding Jesus before this moment. His birth. We talked about his baptism a couple months ago. So, yeah, there was a lot going on. Miraculously, the prophecies when he was a child, all of those things that were going on. But none of the miraculous work was performed by him until this moment. Until this moment. And so, as we look at this miracle, we see that this is the first sign through which he revealed his glory. Have you ever heard of somebody say, well, to God be the glory? I had a friend of mine this evening. I just saw this before I came online because I was tagged in it with some other people. But this friend was thanking another friend of mine for something he had done for him. And the friend who had done something for my other friend responded in the comments. And he said, you know, happy to do it. And thank God for the ability for me to be able to do it. And I thought in that moment, what a life lesson right there. Because we see that sometimes, just as the bridegroom was like, hey, bridegroom, great job. You saved the best for last. Man, most people don't do that, but you did. As the bridegroom getting the glory, do you ever make sure to turn around and give thanks to God for the glory in the moment? Do you know what I mean? Are you getting the glory instead of God when you're getting praised? Or do you make sure to turn around and say, to God be the glory? As my friend did tonight with my other friend. And said, you're welcome. I'm happy to do it. And I thank God that he has given the ability for me to do it. To God be the glory. Because that's really, in verse 11, what is being established here. What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory. His glory. So the next time someone comes to you and says, hey, what a great talent. Thank you so much for doing that. Man, I really admire that skill set. Oh, your patience, you're this, you're that, how much joy you have. Can you turn that back around and say, hey, to God be the glory. Thank God for, him giving this to me. For us being able to experience this, right? Not only are we seeing, the reserve, right? The reserve blend being for last. But we see people reaping the benefits of the blessing that they were never really a part of. We talk about collateral damage, and that when something happens that's bad, there are people that weren't a part of it but yet are indirectly affected by it. Well, it's the same of reaping the benefit of the blessing. Like, you're not directly, the blessing wasn't directly for you, but yet you're able to reap the benefits from it, right? And so that's just kind of this thing that's happening here too with everyone else. So much in just these 3 verses that we're reading tonight. The last thing that it says here in this verse 11, what Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Do you remember these disciples? These are the disciples that we talked about probably about 6 weeks ago, that he had collected up when he was running around by the Sea of Galilee, and that John the Baptist had said, hey, you see him? I know you're my disciples, but check out this guy. He's the real deal. This is who we've been telling other people about. You need to be hanging out with him. And so they went and followed Jesus and became his disciples, his mentee, if you will. So those whom he had called disciples, who had seen no miracle, and yet they followed him, now saw this. It's pretty cool when you're on the inside track. It's one thing to believe and yet not have seen, and then all of a sudden you see, and now you're like, yeah, my belief has been strengthened as a result. As believers, you and I in the body of Christ, how often do we have the unique perspective to be able to see God at work that maybe nobody else has the inside track, but you got to see it? Maybe you and a couple of other people, and you're like, wow, it's going down for real, right? It's going down for real. And so, was this miracle for the entire wedding festivities? Well, yeah, a lot of people reap the benefit off of it. But at the end of the night, what it was about, the servants got to see it because they got to be a part of it. But the disciples who followed Jesus, who had not yet seen and yet believed, were now seeing. I find it fascinating. And so rejoice in those moments when you're able to see who God is by what he is demonstrating in the miraculous works that he's doing right around you, in you and through you. I love that. Let's look at the last verse of these 12 verses we've been hanging on for like 6 weeks. But I'm telling you, when you break this stuff down, it's good. It doesn't matter who you are. It really doesn't. The Bible's for everybody, and guess what? God created everybody. And when I mean everybody, like the root word for everybody is everybody. Not just certain people, not just certain people who meet certain requirements. God created us all. And his word is for everybody. Doesn't matter who you are, where you've been, what you do. It's here for you. Pick it up. God's got something in it for you too. Let's look at this last verse. This is verse 12. After this, whole wedding shindig was done, he went down to Capernaum with his mother and brothers and his disciples. There they stayed for a few days. Interesting how mom continues to follow Jesus and the work that he's doing. If you're a parent, are you encouraging your kids in the giftings that they have? Are you encouraging them as maybe they're home more right now because in our culture, in the midst of this pandemic, and we have some physical distancing and quarantining going on, and you're with your kids a little bit more, are you seeing some things that are just kind of developing out of them that maybe you didn't have a chance to see because you weren't around them every day or as much as you are? And so what is it that you're seeing that's developing in them that's good, that you want to say, yes, let's continue to really encourage them in what they're doing? How about your teens? How about your young adult kids? What about your 30-year-old kids? That's how old Jesus was during this time. What are you doing to encourage your adult kids in what they've been called to do? You like what they're doing? Share what they're doing. Encourage them in what they're doing. Verbalize to them that you're really excited about the work that they're doing. How are you following them in that way? So encourage your kids. Drink up. Enjoy a glass of wine. You know, his first miracle was turning water into wine. And that wine is now a representation of his blood that he shed. Because not only was his first miracle turning water into wine, but before, on the night that he was betrayed, he took a cup that had wine in it. And he said, "This is my blood that'll be poured out for you. Drink this, do this in remembrance of me." In remembrance of me. And so today as believers, you don't have to go to church in order to look up these verses and say, God, I believe in you. I thank you so much that you died on the cross. And as a representation of what you've done, I too take this cup and I said, thank you, Jesus. And you can do that in the quietness of your home. You can invite your family to do it. It doesn't need to be a glass of wine. You can use some grape juice. You can, whatever works for you. But it's symbolic that and not ironic, that the first miracle would be water into wine. And the last time he would be with his disciples, the wine became a representation of his blood. He died for our sins. Not just you and me. Everybody. And so do this in remembrance of him. Love God, love others, and love yourself. Live on purpose. Good night.